There's a saying about cruising that cruising plans are written in sand at low tide. And while that can be frustrating, it can also be a really good lesson in being flexible and maintaining the eye on perhaps the larger aspect of this life, which is enjoyment. Hi, I'm Nika Waters, and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. I'm sharing the confluence of events that made us change our plans from Trinidad for hurricane season to going all the way back to the Chesapeake Bay. That's a pretty big shift in plans. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by MantisMarine.com, maker of the Mantis Anchor, now available in models with and without a roll bar. We've got the M2 without the roll bar, and boy do we love that anchor. Proven to set reliably in the most challenging bottoms, the Mantis Anchor digs like no other, making anchoring safer and boating more enjoyable. Mantis Marine brings to market practical, durable, and affordable marine products, including anchoring gear, scuba diving accessories, a rechargeable waterproof headlamp for hands-free lighting, and the newest, a solar charging navigation light for your dinghy. Visit MantisMarine.com and see for yourself. Plans. Plans are so much fun. I do remember thinking that when we sailed under the Chesapeake Bay Bridge last fall of 2022, that this was the very last time we'd be in that particular location with Calypso. I think I must have forgotten that I had said that once before when Jeremy brought the boat down to Annapolis during the sailboat show. Only about a 15-mile journey. But when we got to Annapolis, we said, oh, we're on our way. We're finally southbound. We're definitely not going back north. And then we started to think about it, and it made a ton of sense to actually move the boat back. And it felt like a major backtrack, that 15 miles. During the 3 weeks that we were back at that marina, we patted ourselves on the back almost every single day for making what felt like a super hard call. When we first made that decision, when we first talked about going that 15 miles back, it felt like a defeat. We hadn't left after all. We hadn't gone south. But having both boats and the car in one location made life so much easier. And since that hard call, turnaround, and going back 15 miles, we've sailed more than 1,500 miles all the way to south of 15 degrees north. And we feel pretty proud of our progress. And guess what? Here we are, sitting in the British Virgin Islands, prepping the boat for an offshore sail back to Pasadena. Does it feel like a backtrack? Our ultimate goal involves going through the Panama Canal. That's not going the right direction if we're going north. Why? Why are we doing this? We had gotten to the point of we had booked a haul-out date and storage in Trinidad. We'd begun researching flights from Port of Spain, and then we started talking. Kind of like what we did after we moved the boat down to Annapolis, we started to talk and realize all the ramifications of that decision. For us, in this fairly large decision, and a big shift from Trinidad to the Chesapeake Bay, it was kind of a trifecta or a quadrifecta. How do you say it when there are four pieces in there? There's the cost angle, the calendar angle, the wild card piece, and then the convenience angle. And let's take a look at them. The cost. And I will say, I'm going to preface this, that in talking to friends and fellow cruisers who have had boats all over the country, it seems that we have been unbelievably fortunate in the costs that we have encountered for dry land storage of our 28-foot, 41 feet overall boat in the Chesapeake Bay. Our benchmark for the places that we've been in the Chesapeake is $150 a month for storage. That doesn't include haul, block, and launch. Those are outside of that whole thing. But that's what we're thinking of as our benchmark when we're talking about storage costs. We talked to yards in Trinidad, Grenada, Antigua, and Panama. All of them were roughly within a few dollars a month for storage. All would run over $600 a month. In most cases, there was a stand rental charge on top of that number to take into account. So to our way of thinking, again, there's our Chesapeake Bay benchmark, it's roughly 4 times as expensive to store the boat in the Caribbean as back in the States. And I will say, this is a caveat, I gotta keep underlining it. My friends assure me this is not the case. That the Caribbean prices that I'm hearing, they're on par with what most of the people pay in most of the rest of the United States. And apparently most of the rest of the Chesapeake Bay, except in the places that we've been. Hauling the boat in Trinidad for 6 months, which would take us through the height of hurricane season, was going to run us close to $4,000 plus the cost of airfare. Wow. The second thing we started thinking about was the calendar. We have 2 kids graduating from college in the United States in the next 2 years. The first, just a few weeks away. The second one, late April of 2024. Making a Pacific crossing not really in the cards until probably the 2024-2025 season at the earliest. For various reasons, we're not all that much interested in cruising either the Western Caribbean nor the Sea of Cortez. That could change. Hey, plans change all the time. But there is a bit of time that needs to be filled during hurricane season / the lightning season in Panama 2024 as well. It's not just 2023 we're talking about. We're also talking about the same sort of thing needing to happen in 2024. The wild card. The second boat that we bought on a whim in 2021 is sitting patiently on the Hard in Maryland. She needs a fair amount of work to be brought to a cruise-ready state. And we had talked about farming a little bit of that work out to the yard while somehow finding the time to put in some hard labor ourselves. And our initial thought when we talked about summer 2023 was that we'd spend a few weeks on her this summer and figure out what could be hired out and what was on our plate. The cost of storage in the Caribbean brought this boat and what we need to do to her firmly back into our minds. When we bought her, we promised the sellers that we'd take her cruising. That was our goal when we bought that boat, and we definitely mean to fulfill that promise. Which leads us to the fourth part of the 4-part trifecta, which is the convenience. While we admit that a 2-week passage back to the States in the springtime is not particularly convenient, we're giving up very hard-earned easting that will have to be fought for again. The biggest factor in the convenience part of this conversation is the fact that Mischief is waiting for that overhaul. Apologies for the noise. The rain just started to bucket down while I was recording this. We realized that taking Calypso back to Pasadena would enable us to love on that boat while living on a conveniently located Calypso. Kind of like having the boat and the other boat and the car all in the same place made life so easy when we went back that 15 miles north. Same sort of thing. Last summer, we lived with friends on Maryland's eastern shore while working on Calypso. That added a 2+ hour car commute each day, more than an hour each way, plus all that gas added up, 6 days a week. It also stressed a valuable friendship. This summer, our commute time will be able to be measured in minutes instead of hours, and we won't be putting our friendship at risk by overstaying a generously offered welcome for a second year in a row. We've sorted out a loose grand vision of getting Mischief cruise capable this summer and fall with Bahamas as the goal. The Bahamas is a perfect cruising ground, in our opinion, to test a new-to-us boat. We've got our work cut out for us, of course, because we've got to deal with the rig and the engine and the electrical and the water damage. There's a whole lot to do. Having time crunch in terms of the weather, because we're not fans of cold weather, means that we're focused on doing what's necessary. The thing is, by talking about the cost, that led us to talking about the calendar, which led us to talking about the boat, which led us to talking about the convenience factor. What happens after 2024? I'm not even going to make any lofty statements about where we'll be or what we'll be doing, because as mentioned in this podcast, plans change. But I'd encourage you, make a decision, but don't think that that decision is what you absolutely have to do. Take the time to think about it, shift it around, look at different perspectives, see what that decision might enable you or limit you to do. Because you might make some different changes and get really excited about something that initially you thought was definitely going to be a backtrack. I can't wait to share an anchorage with you wherever we happen to be, and we can toast to our good fortune at being able to make plans and change them as we see fit. Thank you so much for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. We love hearing from our listeners. We love it when you share us with your friends. We love it when you don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully, this helps you. The Boat Galley is all about making boat life better. And yeah, sometimes that means shifting your decisions. Have a great week.